Big. Hold on. Free gift. If folk can prove me wrong, my claims I'm about to make. Just waiting for one or two people to pop in. And we're going to see who's the realest. We're going to see who the realest right now. And if you can prove me wrong, you get a free gift. And I'm just going to go ahead because I just wanted to do this live just so I can see in the comment thread of someone who can prove me wrong. Hold on one second. I'm going to flip this camera around in a minute. I'm on my cell phone. So I've told people I was the first in this so-called conscious community to expose certain things and put black folk back on track as far as this identity theft behavior, as far as being a culture vulture, right? I was the first and the only one who protected people, okay? Now we're going to see. So here's the claim. I said black folk are the most confused, has the biggest identity crisis on the planet. Okay. So I said people thought Native American or that the Native Americans were, or that the Africans were in Americas prior to Columbus. Okay. People also, prior to Chief X, thought that they were connected to Moors or were the Moors until Chief X corrected that. I'm talking about the entire conscious community. Okay? People felt that they were Egyptians until Chief corrected that shit. I have been the only one who's corrected this identity crisis thing. And I will prove it. Okay? If you can show me a date that predates mine, you get a free gift. Okay? So let's go. Let me turn my camera around. Hold on, let me turn my camera around. Okay. So before everybody in the conscious community felt that they were the Moors or related to the Moors. If they didn't, they were still teaching that. And Chief X was the first one in the entire conscious community who said nope and had to correct people and let them know who a Moor was and what a black Moor was. And if you can predate this, you get a gift. Before I made this video, it says 4 years, but it was really 5 years ago because I made it on Facebook, but I uploaded late. 5 years ago, no one in the entire conscious community can show you a video of anyone clarifying what a blackamoor is. And I showed that blackamoor is not a person, it is art and jewelry of servants. And blackamoor is not a people. I was the only one next to, I will give credit to a guy named the Class of Shabazz. When I seen him doing certain things, it motivated me to clarify certain things. So besides me and the Class of Shabazz, nobody corrected the information on who the Moors were or blackamoor. Let me show you. You can't predate that. If nobody can predate that, then Chief X is the only one in the entire conscious community who clarified Blackamoor and Moor up. Okay, let's continue. Here's another date. Moorish history debunked. You can't predate that. Matter of fact, let me just click on the date so you can see.
France,
November 5th, 2017. No one can predate that in the conscious community. I was the first one to clarify who the Moors were and let you guys in the conscious community know that Blackamoors or Moors is not you. Nobody can predate that, except maybe Class of Shabazz, dude. Okay? Hold on. Oops.
on fight.
Hold on. Where else? Here we go. Moors history debunked. Nobody can predate that. No one's clarified that you niggas wasn't the Moors except Chief X. I was the first to do it. Predate that. And you get a treat. You get a free item. Okay, let's go. Moors lies. This is 5 years ago. I was the only one on that. And right now, today, people say they're not the Moors, and we were never the Moors because of Chief X. Nobody in the entire conscious community ever said otherwise. Let's go. No one showed proof of the slave ships besides Chief X. Okay? I said right here, this was 4 years ago, even though it says 3. But actually, these things go back 5 years. Moors or Askari. And you see them? For a long time, Sarah Seti used to teach that those were the Moors. All through Central Africa, Mussolini was showing the videos and one of them old videos. He claimed these. Nope. I had to clarify that and tell people, no, those are the Askari with the Fez hat on. Those are the Askari who were policemen fighting colonial power. Excuse me. They were policemen fighting for the colonial powers in Central Africa. The Askari. I had to correct that and said, no. Sarah Sutton said it's wrong. Those are Askari people, not the Moors. You can't predate that. Chief X laid that down. Anything correcting who the Moors were or who a Blackamoor was, everyone got that information from Chief X. No one said before Chief X. Let's be clear. Okay? When I was talking about peopling of the world 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I was talking about Aboriginal people and I was clarifying who Aboriginal people was 4 years ago. You guys thought you were Aboriginals. I had to clarify that Aboriginal was only a title for people who are of original Australian stock or the Tasmanian people. Those who migrated out of Africa and 20,000 years later ended up in Australia or around Tasmania, around there. I was the first. Everyone didn't know what an Aboriginal was until Chief X started. You can't predate that. You get a gift. Okay? More lies. I've been on this shit. At this time, 4 or 5 years ago, you niggas was all claiming to be Moors. And you thought Moors were black people. I corrected that in the conscious community. Let's just be real. You can't predate that. Let's click on what the date is. The date on that one is December
What up, fam?
21st, 2017.
My name is Chief X, the god best reincarnated with some more.
Yep. None of y'all was on that shit. Okay. As far as the Native Americans. Native American versus African. I was the only one on that. And didn't nobody prior to 2017, even though this says 2018, we go back to 2017. No one can predate Chief X talking about that we wasn't the Native Americans and Native Americans wasn't here. In the conscious community, nobody can predate that. I used to make videos. Africans would have died trying to cross the rough waters. Because I was in the Navy and I was showing you that you cannot cross them large body in them bullshit
family.
ships.
All right, Chief X, the God best.
And we was talking about all that. Everybody thought that Africans...
Them little boats you see in pictures and artwork can cross that Atlantic Ocean. You're sick and crazy. And you...
Before I made this video, everyone thought that Africans traveled to the Americas. Or if they didn't think that, they never corrected it prior to this date. Predate that and you get a gift. Predate anybody in the conscious community saying that we are not the Native Americans and we never traveled across to the Americas. No one except Classes Shabazz or Chief X spoke on that prior to that date. Let's continue on. Right here, I said no black / African ever was king or ruler of what? What did I say? Of Spain.
Just think about
No black / African ever was king or ruler of Spain. This is when y'all was claiming that the Moors were black and they conquered Spain, and you guys were acting like you were the Moors that conquered Spain. So I had to say, no black or African ever was king or ruler of Spain. And I asked people to prove me otherwise. They could not. Prior to that date, no one spoke on it except Chief X. So so people brought this conversation up. So I said, let me just make a video and tell them to predate that. Native Americans versus Africans. Before I went on Phil Valentine 4 years ago, nobody would ever speak on these pseudo cats.
Chief X, the God best reincarnated.
Nobody prior to June 20, 2018 would ever speak about Phil Valentine and these people and call them out. Chief X is the first one who do that. Chief X been the realest. Let's continue on. Nobody told you chlorophyll products was a scam until Chief X did. No one told you detoxing was bullshit until Chief X did. No, you cannot predate this. Speaking on detoxes and correcting this bad health information, no one said detox is bullshit before Chief X did in the conscious community. No one went in on the Olmec heads are not African prior to Chief X. Let's see what that date is.
You see the line?
August 1st, 2018, you will find not one person in the entire conscious community who was disproving that the Olmecs heads were African. Chief X was the only one. From the Moors to the Olmecs to the ancient Egyptians, Chief X is the first one to debunk those topics. And if you think I'm lying, you get a free gift if you can predate someone doing that prior to the date. Right here, part 2, Olmec heads African. And I talk about Mansa Musa not coming to America. No one can predate anybody talking about that prior to this date.
Okay, Chief.
In telling people this shit was a myth with Mansa Musa. Except me and Classes Shabazz. Hold on. Okay? Dr. Sebi, this was 4 years ago. I just uploaded it then. No one went on Dr. Sebi in the so-called conscious community prior to this date. And this is just shit on YouTube. 2018, damn near 7,500 people. 7,500 people watched this. Nobody went in on that bullshit. The court case besides Chief X on Dr. Sebi. Nobody can predate me. And I got shit 2 years before this going in on Sebi and that bullshit health information. Back to 2016 and 17. When he was alive. Okay, let's go. Nobody was exposing red pill and then before me. Layla Africa before me. I've been on these niggas' ass for years. I was the first one to get it to expose Minister Inky when you niggas was sucking all these niggas' dicks. Polite 3 years ago, I was on his ass. Polite 3 years ago, I was on his ass. How scammers scam with videos about 4 niggas I'd exposed, I was on their ass. This is 3 years ago when you guys was sucking these niggas' dicks. Now look at these niggas about to be in prison. Niggas, even Bruce Lee. This goes back 6 years. No, matter of fact, 7 years. 7 years ago, I'm arguing with grown-ass 40 or 50-year-old men because they thought Bruce Lee actually was a fighter. I said, Bruce Lee has never competed in martial arts or any combat sports. He's never stepped in a ring. He's never got on a mat. And he never competed. I said, Bruce Lee is a Hollywood actor only. And if you call him a martial artist, it's just because he trained some people. And he was good kicking at the air and swinging at the fucking air. But Bruce Lee could not fight. I said he was a coward and he was scared to compete. He was asked to compete. He turned competition down many times. Bruce Lee was not a fighter. He never competed. It's like if you never played a high school, college, or a professional basketball game, how can you be considered the best basketball player if you never competed in basketball? How can you be compared to Jordan and Kobe and you never played a game of basketball ever in your life? You get what I'm saying? Bruce Lee never had a fight in his life. I'm sitting here arguing with grown-ass niggas about Bruce Lee. And we went back and forth for fucking a whole week. And no one could find any fight Bruce Lee been in. I was showing that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and these other people were saying Bruce Lee was 130 pounds. And they would swing him around like a fucking little kid and shit. The nigga was only 140 pounds. I was saying any wrestler that's 125 pounds can whoop Bruce Lee's ass. All they gonna do is tackle him and choke his ass out. Bruce Lee couldn't whoop nobody. I have all this shit I had to do. Why our grandmothers thought we was Indian. 4 or 5 years ago, I was showing why. And I was showing that there was citizens, Cherokee citizens. You wasn't a Cherokee. The Cherokee enslaved Africans. They didn't enslave themselves. They enslaved Africans because they wasn't African. And I said, why did our grandparents think that? This is a video breaking down why. Because they was on the dolls' rolls. But not as they was on there as citizens, not by blood. When the Cherokees and the 5 tribes freed these slaves, some of them were given land and citizenship. So because they was a citizen, they thought they was a Cherokee. So our grandmothers and our great-great-great-great-grandmothers and all them got to say, hey, we Cherokee, I'm from this. No, they were just citizens of the tribe after they were freed. So that's why they thought that they had some Indian in them. Before that, wasn't nobody talking about that except Chief X. You can't predate it. You cannot predate this. So from the Native Americans, the Moors, and finally, hold on. The people didn't even see this video. Proof Mecca is bogus. Mecca is fictitious and bogus. That shit was hot right there. But that's not what I'm talking about. And I've been exposing Polite 3, 4, 5 years ago. Calling out charlatans. I got videos on the Turag and the Berbers and showing you. This is a deep documentary. This is one of my favorite. And then finally, 7,000. Part 2. Nobody spoke of indigenous slavery before I did 2 years ago. It say 1 year, but that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was talking about Africans enslaving Africans, and y'all just getting on the damn topic. You niggas ain't Egyptian. I've been on y'all ass about this shit. No one can predate Chief X talking about we not the Egyptians. No one. So from the Moors, the Native Americans, and now the Egyptians, Chief X jumped off each and one of those conversations and proved otherwise. If it wasn't for Chief X, the entire conscious community right now will be claiming that they're Native Americans and Moors and Egyptians. If y'all didn't know, Chief X jumped off them conversations. I was saying fuck Egypt. I've been saying fuck Egypt. Not, fuck ancient Egypt. And the goddamn Hotep word. This is 2 years ago. So, Chief X is the only one in the entire conscious community who correct people thinking that they're Moors, Native Americans, and the ancient Egyptians. That's a fact. And you get a free treat if you can find anybody predating me talking about any of these issues and clarifying it. Chief X is your God. Chief X is the leader of debunking this bullshit and getting niggas on track. It is what it is. Now, so stop trying to nope, these niggas ain't never spoke on them topics or clarified it or made a video on it before I did. All these niggas in the conscious committee wanted you to remain brainwashed. They wanted you to continue to steal other people's culture. They loved being the culture vulture, all of them, until I clean their ass up. Single-handedly, I cleaned all that shit up. I'm the realest nigga on that you subscribe to. I wanted to toot my horn today. And if I'm wrong, predate what I just showed you. I'm out.